That's right. It is the post-game show. Brian Smith, Jason Martinez. Preseason game number 2 is in the books. This is usually the point, Brian, where I go, okay, let's get to the regular season. That's 2 weeks from tomorrow. Still got 4 more to go and a lot of work to be done. But they do. It's a tight game. They outshoot the Islanders 29-19. What was it, 11-3 in the third period?
Yes, 11-3. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's, a lot of pressure that they put on the New York Islander goaltenders. And they get their first goal of the preseason. And it comes from a guy that we talked about last period. Maybe this is a little broadcaster reverse jinx, but Ryan Poehling gets the goal and gets the Flyers on the board, and they worked it all the way to the end, to the final horn.
Yeah, I mean, this was a game, I believe, that was closer than the score showed. This was a good showing for this group, especially against the group the Islanders put out there. And I don't mean to take anything away from the Scott Laughtons and Noah Cates and then those veterans on that fourth line. Certainly, those are good players. But the Flyers as a whole had a lineup that was a little bit below the one the Islanders put out, and that lineup I think played with the Islanders tit for tat in this game. It was again a couple of really just fluky goals that gave the Islanders the win in this one. So I think the Flyers did a lot of good things in this game. Certainly showed a lot more energy than they did on Monday, which, again, looking back on it, it's kind of self-explanatory as to why. I think some of the guys that we thought needed to have good showings in this contest did just that. And, now we'll move on to whatever the organization has planned for the group that's going to play on Friday.
Yeah, we'll see what that group looks like on Friday. That's the final road game. It just worked out this year where 3 straight on the road to start the preseason and then 3 straight at home. If you're kind of planning it out, I think that's the way you plan it out in an ideal world, really.
Yeah. I mean, it was done with a purpose this year because the Flyers are renovating the locker room facilities in the Wells Fargo Center, and so they needed the extra week to kind of wrap up to the point where they can use it. It's not even still the main locker room that will be ready. It's auxiliary ones, but I mean it's nice when you can. I think when you can kind of bunch them like this because you've got 2 things that work there. One is the first games are the ones where you usually play your prospects. You get those guys 1 or 2 games and get them back to juniors. And then your latter games are the ones where you're trying to, not so much for the Flyers this year. I mean, there are some roster decisions that have to be made, but you're playing your NHL players that you're trying to figure out who's going to slot where and get some of those veterans in game shape, and those guys get to do that at home. So it is a pretty good setup, I think, on this schedule for the team in general, whether they did it on purpose for that reason or not. But it's I think beneficial, and they'll maybe try to do it again.
Yeah, watching the game tonight, Cates gets an assist. We're looking for more offense from him this year. I think it's in there. He was tasked with a very tough task last year from John Tortorella, moving to the center position, and also with Sean Couturier out, having to handle the opposition's top line on pretty much every night. But there's probably more offense in there. But really the guy that kind of opened my eyes a little bit, and he's going to be part of an interesting decision. We talk about competition camp and competition for jobs, but he was one of the kind of lower on the radar acquisitions this summer, and that's Victor Mete. I thought he looked pretty good in this game tonight, and he's a guy that he didn't stay healthy last year. If he can stay healthy the way he skates, he could be a guy that is in the mix there on the blue line.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an interesting situation for him because, the Flyers don't want to just throw the kids out to dogs and have a completely young blue line, but at the same time, they don't want to block anybody. So, he definitely has shown that he's got what it takes to handle this level still. Whether or not, any NHL time is in the cards for him this year or not, I don't know if he's a guy that would be. I don't think in this group he would be a 7th D, but he might be the first call up from Lehigh Valley. You never know. It's one of those things. Sometimes we've had years where the Flyers have gone through 12 defensemen, and we've had years where the 7th defenseman played 3 games because they didn't have any injuries. So it's
Nick Grossman that year,
or
was that Hal Gill?
Hal Gill. That was Hal Gill's year.
Yeah.
We saw a lot of Hal Gill in the press box that season.
Popcorn Hal Gill, they called him.
Yeah. So you never know, but it's always good to have that depth. And then, come the trade deadline, you may be able to flip him for an asset if he's having a good year and the Flyers are, not in a race or otherwise healthy on D. It could come down to that. So, it's a good pickup and good to see him having a good first game.
Yeah, I'm sure, change of scenery as well for him. And you want to get off on the right foot. And I thought Roddy Adder looked good in the game tonight too, pushing the offense and not being afraid to make mistakes. John Tortorella has talked about that it's okay if you make – it's a game of mistakes. It's okay if you make mistakes if you're trying to make the right play at the right time. It's situational as well. I thought Adder had made some good decisions in this game. So we'll see where it all goes, the collective and how they performed in camp and, the scrimmages and obviously these preseason games as well will all go into the thought process. And as they fit this insane, jigsaw puzzle of the team on the ice, the team from a cap perspective, the team waiver exemptions, boy, it's way above my pay grade. That's for sure.
Just a couple of notes here. We were talking about Noah Cates, and he played 21-37 tonight, which led all forwards. If you extrapolate that over to the regular season, that would have been the second most time he's played in a game in his career, behind less than a minute behind his career high from last November. So that's kind of, again, the nice thing about getting somebody like that into a game like this on a roster like this is he's going to pull some big numbers. But talking about Adder, I felt like when John Tortorella came in last year and he said that we don't mind the aggressive mistakes, we want him to make those things and that sort of thing. For whatever reason, to me, it felt like Cam York still had a little bit of trouble taking that to heart and just jumping in and doing it. And for some reason, I don't feel like Ronnie Adder is going to have the same problem. So, his learning curve and his advancement under this system might go a little bit more quickly.
And I think that guys also learned from Cam York last year.
Yeah.
And that was the message. And he went down. And look, he went down in the Phantoms. Ian LePere was telling me he went down and he put in the work, earned his way back up. And that's what you got to do. That's the right way to handle it for sure. So Flyers and Bruins on Friday. It'll be back-to-back games Friday in Boston at TD Garden. That game will be on NHL Network and right here on the Flyers Broadcast Network. And then Saturday will be the first home game. And it'll be good to be back at the Wells Fargo Center for Philadelphia Flyers. Get our first look at the jerseys on Wells Fargo Center ice. I can't wait for that. And I know they're on sale right now as well.
Do you have flashbacks at all watching these whites? Because I occasionally do.
Yeah.
I mean, when you catch them at the right angle, it's like you're watching the 80s all over again. They really seem to hit well on television. I mean, I know a lot of folks maybe haven't been able to watch on a big screen TV or something like that. I did hook up my laptop to my TV tonight, and I think when you start seeing these things on TV, you're gonna really like how they come across when the team's on the ice.
Yeah, and the oranges are going to look fantastic. Beginning Saturday. So let's wrap things up there. Let's thank a few people before we get out of here. Let's start with our in-studio engineer. How about Mike Vito pressing the dial? Easy for me. I'm in preseason mode, apparently. The dials and the knobs. Great job by him. Haley Taylor-Simon on highlights tonight. For Brian Smith, Tim Saunders, and Todd Fedoruk, I'm Jason Martinez. You've been listening to Philadelphia Flyers Hockey on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network. Good night, everybody.